Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Giorbelidze. I'm assistant professor of community economic development at Shannon School of Business, Cape Breton University, Canada. And along with my colleagues, Dr. Bishakha Mazumdar, who is an associate professor, and Dr. Kevin McKague, who is also an associate professor at Cape Breton University. I will be presenting the paper on enablers and constraints of channeling mature talent into the workforce. This was supported by a Tri-Council grant, SSHRC, Partnership Engage grant, and this research shows these findings. So just to give you a brief overview, where Nova Scotia stands. Nova Scotia has a huge challenge, like experience is a challenge in terms of accessing qualified workforce, and particularly the population aging is accelerating, and Nova Scotia has one of the oldest demographics in Canada. On the other side, as I mentioned, there is a labor shortage that are constantly intensifying, particularly in rural areas in Canada, and particularly small and medium enterprises are experiencing that gap. So as part of this research, we looked at what are the ways of older adults who are 50 plus of current participation modalities in the labor market, or what way they wish to participate in the economy. Then we also looked at to what extent the employers are ready to examine the preparedness of employers, and particularly we looked at small and medium enterprises and their practices to hire, retain, and accommodate mature workers. And for the sake of consistency, when I say mature workers or older workers, I mean people who are 50 plus in this case. So we also look to identify key factors that enable and constrain participation from both the supply side and the demand side, and also at the end develop the recommendations and look how we can solve it. So the whole research is anchored into the principles of United Nations Decade of Healthy Aging, and this is a kind of global framework that fosters the functional ability and function of older people. And it's not only like a very health focused of aging. So it's not that people age because they get older. No, it emphasizes the fundamental right of older adults to work, to contribute to the community, and also to thrive in all aspects of their study. So in this specific case, our research focuses on workforce integration. So we had two different studies. One study looked at supply side, another study looked at demand side. So on the supply side, there was an online questionnaire to 187 adults who are aged 50 plus across Nova Scotia to understand their motivations, skills, and perceived barriers for engagement. On the other side, we had the demand side, which are structured telephone interviews to more than 300 SMEs to understand their hiring practices and attitudes and readiness to mature talent. This dual approach helped us understand alignments and mismatches between work supply and demand. So in terms of the mature adults that we supplied, the average age of our respondents were 60 to 70. More than 35% were highly educated, and 63% had backgrounds in professional or managerial roles, indicating significant expertise. So vast majority of them, what is the motivation? When we asked what was the motivation to get engaged into the community or back into the workforce, actually financial contribution was not the top one. Community contribution was the number one most mentioned issue, followed by social interaction, and then financial reasons was like second from the list. So this indicates a preference for flexible and purposeful roles, such as maybe part-time work, consulting, mentoring, or skilled volunteering that helps them give a full sense of fulfillment and contribution to the community. The barriers that the mature adults faced were definitely the age barriers. So 68% agreed that ageism is a significant barrier affecting hiring and promotion, and that represents a substantial challenge. 41% said that physical location, particularly in the rural areas, were very limited, and it was a major hurdle. Other barriers that have been mentioned included inadequate public transportation, discomfort with unfamiliar software, and outdated employer perception of their abilities. On the other side, as I said, we looked at small and medium enterprises. So 67% of the companies that we interviewed were micro enterprises, meaning they had fewer than 10 employees. And it was a mix of rural Nova Scotia and urban Nova Scotia. And 72% reported they had ongoing challenge recruiting high quality staff. When we asked them even though they faced labor shortages, what was their preference towards the age group of who they are looking to hire? So 34%, only a third of the employees were likely to hire an older worker for an entry level position. Fewer than 1 in 4 would consider a mature adult for a leadership role, despite their extensive managerial experience. So there is a clear preference towards the younger workers, often driven by flawed assumptions about digital literacy, adaptability, or more of a longer-term commitments, while over kind of ignoring the deep experience or the large experience of mature adults. Employers also, we looked at what type of skills they were looking at. Most of them were said that they were looking for technical skills, and technical skills were like knowledge of software, knowledge of business-specific, very technical business-related knowledge that they needed to run their specific product or service. Then soft skills, and you see what is a huge gap between the technical skills and the soft skills. And it was followed by digital literacy, leadership, and trainability. 12% of the companies had formal accommodations like flexible hours or ergonomic equipment. Around 48% relied on ad hoc case-by-case arrangements, and 40% offered no adjustment whatsoever to mature workers. So, once you look at those both studies, you can see that there are policy gaps. Current government policies focus on health and social aspects of aging, largely ignoring economic integration and workforce participation. Also, 70% of stakeholders view prevailing cultural attitudes towards aging and work as a moderate to high constraint. And also, many micro enterprises or small medium enterprises did not have adequate infrastructure with limited public transit that kind of hindered their accessibility to employment. Also, we looked at the gender dimension on it. Even though workforce re-entry are not uniform, experiences differ based on gender, previous career, income, and location. So women were more likely than men to identify unpaid caregiving responsibilities for grandchildren or aging parents as a primary barrier to employment. And former executives often faced significant identity disruption, finding it difficult to transition from leadership roles to less senior positions. And those who lived in rural areas, they have this rural disadvantage, were paradoxically less likely to have implemented inclusive hiring practices. So our findings reveal a disconnect, what works for mature adults and what these small and medium enterprises can offer. So the mature adults were focusing on they were looking for leadership, reliability, strong ethics, deep institutional knowledge, problem-solving experience, and while the demand was immediate job-specific skill, perceived digital nativity, cultural fit for younger teams, and also they had some assumptions for longer-term goals. So we also looked at what is the policy side to it, and then there are lack of targeted programs. Very few government programs are designed specifically to facilitate the employment of very mature adults or to educate employers on their values. Also, pension and security systems can penalize individuals who choose to continue working past retirement age, discouraging participation, and there are no incentives for small and medium companies. And there is a clear need for holistic strategic government framework that treats works for aging as an economic imperative. So what should the employers do? First one is formalize inclusive practices. Develop and implement formal HR policies that explicitly welcome and support workers in all ages. Promote workplace flexibility, offer flexible work arrangements such as job sharing, part-time contracts, maybe phased retirement programs. Also value the experience that those elderly mature adults bring and reframe job design. Move beyond rigid job descriptions and redesign roles to better integrate the skills that they have. What should the policymakers do? Provide more financial incentives to small and medium enterprises. Also invest in infrastructure, particularly in rural areas. Support and promote these intermediate broker organizations that specialize in matching mature talent with suitable employers, and also kind of look at more of a systemic change and try to eliminate those biases that are inherited in the system and launch a public education campaign to challenge aging stereotypes and promote the value of multi-generational workforce. Obviously, there are some research needed. This research was conducted in a specific time and space, and it would be nice to track these changes in attitudes and behaviors and policies in a longer term period and have sampling more inclusive, maybe such as new immigrants, some of the indigenous people or those with disabilities, and also kind of couple it with some of the in-depth interviews and focus group discussions to explore the lived experiences that go beyond the quantitative data, and also rigorously evaluate the effectiveness of new age inclusive pilot programs that are available currently in the that are currently in the system. Thank you.